Commander Jake Morrison stood at the back of the massive assembly hall, watching 12 different alien species argue about star maps and trade routes. The Nexus Prime Station was the biggest structure humans had ever seen, a metal city floating in space that housed the Galactic Coalition government. Jake had been here for 3 years as Earth's military liaison, and he still felt small every time he walked these halls. The Vorthek delegate was speaking now, his voice booming across the chamber. He stood nearly 10 feet tall, covered in thick scales that could stop laser fire. His people were the strongest in the galaxy, able to lift starship engines with their bare hands. When he talked, everyone listened. The Outer Rim territories need stronger protection, the Vorthek said, his yellow eyes scanning the room. My people will provide security forces. Humans can handle supply runs and medical support. Jake gritted his teeth but said nothing. It was always the same. Humans got the safe jobs, the background work, the things that didn't require real strength. In 47 years of being part of the coalition, humanity had never been given a combat role. Dr. Lisa Harper sat in the human section, her tablet showing research data about species comparison. She was a xenobiologist, one of the few humans who studied alien life forms. Her work was respected, but only because it helped other species understand each other better. No one asked her about human biology. The Zephyrian ambassador floated above his chair, his blue energy form shifting like water. His people had technology that made human computers look like stone tools. They could travel faster than light without ships just by thinking about it. Their cities were made of pure energy, beautiful and impossible. The Zephyrians will provide defensive shields for the outer colonies, the energy being said, his voice like wind chimes. Our technology can protect entire systems from attack. Admiral Greg Collins shifted in his seat. He was 62 years old and had spent his whole career watching aliens do the jobs humans wanted to do. He commanded the human fleet, but it was the smallest force in the coalition. 12 ships compared to the Vorthek's 300 or the Crystalline Hive's 1,000-ship collective. The Crystalline Hive delegate spoke next, but it wasn't really one being. It was a cluster of living crystals that shared thoughts instantly. They could solve problems faster than any computer because they thought as one mind. Their voice was like breaking glass, sharp and clear. The collective will handle system-wide communication networks and strategic planning, they said. Efficiency requires unified thinking. Ambassador Kate Williams watched from the diplomatic section. She was Earth's chief representative, a woman who had spent 20 years trying to get humans a bigger role in coalition affairs. Every proposal she made was politely rejected. Humans were too weak, too emotional, too unpredictable. The meeting continued for hours. The Thorian Empire offered their shape-shifting abilities for espionage work. The Mechanical Syndicate volunteered their robot armies for dangerous missions. The Aquatic Federation promised their submarines for underwater operations. Each species had something special, something that made them valuable. When it came time for the human contribution, Ambassador Williams stood up slowly. Earth will provide medical personnel, research support, and evacuation assistance, she said. The words felt hollow in her mouth. The same offer they made every year. The Vorthek delegate made a sound that might have been laughter. Very generous. Ambassador, your people are excellent at running away from danger. A few other delegates made similar noises. Not quite mockery, but close enough. Jake felt his hands clench into fists. He wanted to say something, to defend his species, but what could he say? The numbers didn't lie. Dr. Harper's research showed it clearly. Humans ranked last in physical strength, behind even the plant-like botanical collective. Human technology was basic compared to the Zephyrians. Human weapons were crude next to the Vorthek arsenal. Human ships were slow, human computers were simple, human bodies were fragile. The only thing humans did well was adapt. They could live on almost any planet, eat almost any food, work with almost any other species. But adaptation wasn't strength. It was just survival. After the meeting, Jake walked with Dr. Harper through the station corridors. The walls were covered with murals showing coalition victories from the past. Vorthek warriors defeating space pirates. Zephyrian energy shields, protecting colonies from asteroids. Crystalline hive networks coordinating rescue operations. There were no humans in any of the pictures. Sometimes I wonder why we joined, Jake said, watching a group of Thorian children play in a nearby park. They kept changing shape, becoming different animals, and laughing with joy. Because we had to, Lisa replied. Earth was dying. Pollution. Wars, resource depletion. The Coalition saved us. That was true. When the aliens first arrived 50 years ago, Earth was on the edge of collapse. The Coalition had offered membership, advanced technology, and new worlds to colonize. In return, humans had to follow Coalition laws and contribute to the common good. It had been a good deal. Human colonies now existed on 47 worlds. Earth itself was green and healthy again thanks to alien technology. Human lifespan had doubled. Disease was almost eliminated. War between human nations had ended, but the price was being seen. As the weakest link, they passed a newsstand showing headlines from across the galaxy. Pirates attacking trade routes. Rebel groups fighting for independence. Natural disasters threatening entire species. The Coalition handled these problems with military force, advanced technology, or collective intelligence. Never with humans. You know what I don't understand? Jake said, stopping to look at a war memorial. We survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and near extinction. We explored our whole planet, then built machines to explore space. We went from cave paintings to quantum computers in 10,000 years, Lisa nodded. Other species took millions of years to reach the same level. So, why does everyone think we're weak? Before Lisa could answer, emergency alarms began blaring throughout the station. The lights changed from white to red, and automated voices spoke in 12 different languages. Jake's translator told him the message in English. Priority alert. All delegation members report to emergency assembly immediately. They ran back to the assembly hall, joining thousands of other beings rushing through the corridors. The atmosphere was tense, fearful. Coalition emergency sessions only happened for major threats. Admiral Collins was already in the human section when they arrived. His face was grim, the expression of a military officer who had seen bad news before. Ambassador Williams looked worried but determined. The Coalition Supreme Commander, a massive Vorthak named Korthak, stood at the central podium. His scales were darker than usual, a sign of stress in his species. Behind him, holographic displays showed star charts with red warning zones. We have detected an unknown species at the galaxy's edge, Korthak announced. Long-range scouts report massive biological ships consuming entire star systems. They appear to be heading toward populated space. The hall erupted in worried voices. 12 species speaking at once, all asking the same questions. How many ships? How powerful? How long before they arrived? Dr. Harper pulled up her tablet, accessing the scout reports. What she saw made her stomach drop. The alien ships were enormous, bigger than space stations. They moved through space like living things, and everywhere they went, planets died. We're calling them the Devourers, Korthak continued. They consume all organic matter and leave nothing behind. 7 uninhabited systems have already been destroyed. The Zephyrian ambassador's energy form flickered with fear. How long do we have? Based on their current speed, they will reach the outer colonies in 3 months, Korthak said. All species must prepare for war. The room fell silent. War was rare in the Coalition. Most problems were solved through negotiation or economic pressure. But some things could only be stopped with force. The Vorthik Empire will deploy our battle fleets, Korthak declared. Zephyrian technology will provide defensive systems. The crystalline hive will coordinate all military operations. One by one, each species offered their strengths. The Thorians would provide infiltration specialists. The Mechanical Syndicate would build weapons. The Aquatic Federation would guard water worlds. When it came to humans, Ambassador Williams stood up again. Earth will provide medical support, evacuation assistance, and supply coordination, she said. The same roles as always. The safe jobs. the background work, but as Jake looked around the room at the frightened faces of the galaxy's strongest species, he wondered if maybe, just maybe, they were measuring strength wrong. Because the one thing none of these powerful beings seemed to have was the thing humans had in abundance. They had never learned to be truly angry. The meeting ended with military preparations beginning immediately. As the delegates filed out, Jake caught Admiral Collins looking at the star charts with an expression he had never seen before. Not fear, not worry, but something else. Something that looked almost like anticipation. Dr. Harper was studying the Devourer ship designs when she noticed something odd. The alien vessels had no obvious weapons, no shields, no technology she could identify. They were just big, living things that ate everything in their path. "They're not warriors," she said quietly. "They're just hungry." 3 months had passed since the first Devourer sighting, and the galaxy was preparing for war. Captain Alex Turner stood on the bridge of his ship, the Earth vessel Defiant, watching massive alien warships move through space like metal mountains. The Vorthak dreadnoughts were so big they blocked out stars. The Zephyrian energy shields created rainbow walls across entire solar systems. The crystalline hive had linked 1,000 ships into one giant thinking machine. Alex's ship was small compared to all of them. The Defiant was a rescue vessel, built for speed and medical operations. It carried no heavy weapons, no energy shields, no world-destroying technology. Like most human ships, it was designed to save lives, not take them. "Captain, we're receiving new orders," said Lieutenant Maria Santos, his communications officer. She was also his second-in-command, a former Special Forces soldier who had joined the Space Fleet when the military merged services. Alex read the message on his screen. Evacuation duty again? The humans were being sent to pull civilians off planets before the Devourers arrived. Important work, but not the kind that won wars. Dr. Lisa Harper was aboard the Defiant now, transferred from the Nexus Prime Station to study Devourer biology. She had been working with samples recovered from destroyed systems, trying to understand how the aliens worked. Her research station was set up in the ship's medical bay, surrounded by microscopes and computers. "Any luck with the samples?" Alex asked, finding her hunched-over analysis screen. Lisa looked up, her eyes tired from weeks of study. "They're not like anything we've seen before. The Devourers aren't really individual creatures. They're more like living pieces of one giant organism. Each ship is basically a moving organ. So we're fighting a single enemy? Maybe, or maybe we're fighting something that's already dead." Lisa showed him cellular images on her screen. "Look at this tissue. It's decaying and regenerating at the same time. Like the whole species is caught between life and death." Alex studied the pictures. The Devourer cells looked wrong somehow, twisted and hungry. "What do they want?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out." Lisa switched to a different screen showing energy readings. They don't just eat organic matter. They absorb life force itself. Every living thing they consume makes them stronger. On the other side of the ship, Dr. Ben Rogers was working on military analysis. He was a human strategist, one of the few the Coalition consulted for tactical advice. His job was to study enemy patterns and find weaknesses. Ben had spent weeks watching recordings of Devourer attacks. 7 systems destroyed, billions of lives lost, and the aliens had barely slowed down. But he was starting to see something the other military leaders missed. "The Devourers aren't random," he told Alex during their evening briefing. "They target specific planets first. Always the ones with the most resistance." "What do you mean?" Ben pulled up a holographic star map. "Look at the attack pattern. They hit the Keltonian homeworld first, even though it was the most heavily defended. Then they went after the Thorian Military Academy. Then the Mechanical Syndicate Weapons Factory." Alex studied the map. "They're hunting the strongest opponents first." "Exactly. They're not just hungry, they're strategic." Ben highlighted more planets on the map, and they're learning. Each attack is more efficient than the last. This information changed everything. The Coalition had been preparing for mindless monsters. But the devourers were intelligent predators who studied their prey. Alex called a meeting with his senior staff. Maria Santos joined them, along with Dr. Harper and Chief Engineer Danny Walsh, a quiet man who kept the ship running smoothly. "If the devourers are targeting strong resistance first, what does that mean for us?" Alex asked. "It means they're coming for Earth," Maria said quietly. "We're not the strongest species, but we're still part of the coalition. And we have something they might want." "What?" Dr. Harper answered. "Adaptability. We can live anywhere, eat anything, work with anyone. In biological terms, we're the most flexible species in the galaxy." Danny spoke up from the corner. "My grandmother always said that if you want to survive a storm, you don't stand strong like a tree, you bend like grass." Alex thought about that. Maybe human weakness was actually a different kind of strength. News came in daily from the front lines. The first major battle had been a disaster. The coalition fleet met the devourers at the Kelton system, home to 3 billion people. The Vorthek dreadnoughts had fired everything they had. The Zephyrian energy shields had held for hours. The crystalline hive had coordinated the perfect defense. None of it mattered. The devourers absorbed the energy attacks and turned them into fuel. They learned to bypass the shields within minutes. They disrupted the hive's coordination by targeting the communication nodes first. The Kelton system fell in 6 hours. 3 billion people died. The coalition fleet barely escaped. Ambassador Kate Williams was on Earth when the news arrived. She stood in the Global Defense Center, watching the reports with growing horror. The galaxy's strongest species had been defeated like children fighting adults. "We need to evacuate the colonies," she told Admiral Greg Collins. "All of them." "With what ships?" Collins replied. "Half our fleet is already on evacuation duty. The other half is too small to move entire populations. Then we save who we can." Collins looked at the star charts showing human colonies. 47 worlds, 50 million people total. The evacuation ships could maybe save half of them before the devourers arrived. "Kate, we need to talk about something," Collins said quietly. "I've been studying the battle reports. The devourers pause when they encounter something new." "What? Do you mean they study it? Analyze it? Try to understand it before they attack?" Collins pulled up a tactical display. During the Kelton battle, there was a moment when a human supply ship crossed their path. They stopped attacking for almost 30 seconds, just watching it. Williams felt a chill. They're curious about us. Or they're confused. Either way, it's the first time they've hesitated since this war started. Meanwhile, Captain Turner's ship was approaching the outer colonies. Their first stop was Haven Prime, a human settlement with 2 million people. It was a farming world, peaceful and quiet, the kind of place people went to raise families. When the Defiant arrived, Alex expected to find panic. Instead, he found something he had never seen before. The colonists were preparing to fight. Governor Rachel Stone met them at the spaceport. She was a middle-aged woman who had led the colony for 10 years. But now she looked different, harder, more determined. "We're not leaving," she told Alex straight out. "Governor, you have to. The devourers will be here in days. Then we'll be ready for them." Alex looked around the spaceport. The colonists had turned farming equipment into weapons. Tractors were armored like tanks. Irrigation systems had been converted into defensive barriers. Children were being taught to hide in underground bunkers. "This is suicide," Alex said. "Your people are farmers, not soldiers." "We're humans," Rachel replied. "We've been fighting for survival since we lived in caves. We're not going to stop now." Dr. Harper was fascinated by what she saw. The colonists weren't just preparing to fight. They were changing. Stress was making them stronger, faster, more alert. Their bodies were adapting to the threat in ways other species couldn't. "I need to run some tests," she told Alex. "I think I'm seeing something important." Over the next 2 days, Lisa studied the colonists' biology. What she found amazed her. Under extreme stress, human bodies released chemicals that enhanced physical performance. Heart rates increased, but so did strength and reaction time. Pain tolerance went up. Mental focus became razor-sharp. Other species have fear responses, she explained to Alex. But humans have something else. We get angry. Is that important? It might be the most important thing in the galaxy right now. Lisa showed him brain scans of the colonists. Fear makes most species run or freeze, but anger makes humans fight harder. The Devourers arrived at Haven Prime on a Tuesday morning. Their bioships blocked out the sun, casting shadows across the farming settlements. The colonists watched. From their bunkers and defensive positions, Alex wanted to evacuate his ship, but Governor Stone asked him to stay. "We need witnesses," she said. "If we're going to die, someone needs to tell the galaxy what happened here." The first Devourer scouts landed like falling meteors. They were massive creatures, part plant and part machine, with tendrils that could dissolve rock. They moved across the landscape, consuming everything in their path. Then they met the human defenses. The colonists fought like nothing Alex had ever seen. They used weapons that should have been useless against the aliens. They fought through injuries that would have killed other species. When their equipment broke, they used their hands. Most importantly, they didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like parents protecting their children. The Devourers paused. For the first time in their advance across the galaxy, they encountered something they couldn't understand. These small, weak creatures were becoming more dangerous as the fight continued. Every setback made them angrier. Every loss made them fight harder. "Captain," Maria Santos called from the bridge. "You need to see this." Alex rushed to the command center. On the screen, he saw something impossible. The Devourers were retreating, not all of them, but some. The ones facing the heaviest. Human. The news from Haven Prime spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time since the war began, the Devourers had retreated from a battle. Every species in the coalition wanted to know how the weakest members had achieved what the strongest could not. Admiral Greg Collins stood in the war room on Earth, studying reports from 12 different battlefronts. The situation was getting worse every day. The Devourers had consumed 18 systems now, and their bioships were growing larger with each victory. But Haven Prime had given him an idea that could change everything. "Show me the human colony locations," he told his aide, Captain Jake Morrison, who had returned from the Nexus Prime Station to help coordinate the war effort. Jake pulled up a holographic map showing 47 human worlds scattered across Coalition space. Each world had between 10,000 and 5 million people. Farmers, scientists, teachers, engineers, normal people living normal lives. "What are you thinking, Admiral?" Jake asked. "I'm thinking we've been fighting this war wrong," Collins replied. "The Coalition keeps sending soldiers to fight the Devourers, professional warriors with military training and advanced weapons." "That makes sense, does it?" Collins zoomed in on Haven Prime. The colonists there were farmers and shopkeepers. No military training, basic equipment. But they fought harder than any Vorthek warrior. Jake studied the battle reports from Haven Prime. The humans had suffered terrible losses, but they had also inflicted damage on the Devourers that seasoned Coalition forces couldn't match. More importantly, they had made the aliens retreat. "The difference is motivation," Collins continued. "Soldiers fight for duty, for honor, for their species. But the colonists were fighting for their children." Ambassador Kate Williams entered the war room, her face grim with new reports. "We just lost contact with the Zephyrian home system. The energy beings tried to evacuate their core populations, but the Devourers followed them through hyperspace." Collins felt his jaw tighten. The Zephyrians had been allies of humanity since first contact. Their technology had helped clean Earth's polluted atmosphere. Now they were gone, consumed by aliens that treated entire civilizations like food. "How many survived?" Jake asked. "Maybe a few thousand, out of 12 billion, Williams sat down heavily. "The Coalition Council is in panic. Half the member species are talking about surrender." "Surrender to what?" Collins snapped. "The Devourers don't take prisoners, they just eat everything." Dr. Lisa Harper arrived with her latest research. She had been studying Devourer biology nonstop since Haven Prime, trying to understand why the aliens had retreated from human resistance. I think I know what happened, she said, spreading data tablets across the table. The Devourers adapt by analyzing their enemies. They study how other species fight, then develop counters to those tactics. So why couldn't they counter the humans? Williams asked. Because human combat behavior doesn't follow logical patterns. Lisa pulled up brain scans from the Haven Prime colonists. Most species fight with calculated aggression. They assess threats, choose appropriate responses, and act according to training. She switched to different scans showing human neural activity during combat. But humans under extreme stress enter a state we call protective fury. Logic shuts down, training becomes secondary. They start fighting with pure emotion. Collins studied the brain scans, and the Devourers can't predict emotional responses. Exactly, they're designed to adapt to rational behavior. But there's nothing rational about a human protecting their family. The discussion was interrupted by urgent alarms. Emergency communications from across the galaxy flooded in simultaneously. The Devourers weren't just attacking random systems anymore. They were targeting human colonies specifically. New Harmony is under attack, Jake reported, reading incoming messages. So is Garden, World, and Port Hope. Collins felt something cold settle in his stomach. They're hunting us. Why? Williams asked. We're not the strongest species. Dr. Harper looked at her research data. Because we're the anomaly. The Devourers eliminate threats to their expansion. We're the only species that successfully resisted? The next few hours brought terrible news. 3 human colonies were overrun before evacuation could begin. The attacks were more vicious than anything the Devourers had done before. They weren't just consuming the planets. They were destroying them completely, making sure nothing survived. They're sending a message, Collins realized. Fight us, and we'll make sure your species dies first. Captain Alex Turner received new orders while his ship was still near Haven Prime. Instead of evacuation duty, he was being sent to organize human resistance across the outer colonies. His small rescue vessel was now commanding a fleet of civilian ships turned into makeshift warships. Captain, we're getting volunteers from every human world, Lieutenant Maria Santos reported. Cargo haulers, mining ships, even passenger liners. They're all requesting weapons and asking where to fight. Alex looked at the growing fleet on his scanner. None of these ships were built for war. Their crews were merchants, miners, and tourists. But they were all coming to fight anyway. Dr. Ben Rogers joined Turner's fleet aboard a converted research vessel. His job was to teach human tactics to volunteers who had never held weapons before. What he found surprised him. They already know how to fight, he told Alex during a strategy meeting. Not with military precision, but with something else. Something the Devourers have never seen. What do you mean? Watch this. Ben showed him training footage from the volunteer ships. The new fighters weren't learning standard coalition combat techniques. Instead, they were developing their own methods based on protecting each other. A mining crew had turned their asteroid drills into close-range weapons. A passenger liner was using its entertainment systems to coordinate attacks. A cargo hauler had converted its loading bays into fighter launch platforms. They're improvising, Alex realized. More than that. They're fighting like humans have always fought. Not like soldiers following orders, but like communities defending their homes. The test came at the New Frontier system, where a human agricultural colony was about to be attacked. Alex's volunteer fleet arrived just as the Devourer bioships entered the system. What happened next changed the war forever. The human ships didn't fight like a military fleet. They fought like an angry mob. There was no formation, no tactical coordination, no strategic planning. Instead, each ship attacked in its own way, using whatever weapons and techniques its crew thought might work. The Devourers tried to analyze the human attack pattern, but there wasn't one. Every ship fought differently. When one tactic failed, the humans immediately tried something else. When their weapons broke, they rammed the alien ships. When their engines died, they used escape pods as missiles. Most importantly, the humans got angrier as the fight continued. Every destroyed human ship made the survivors fight harder. Every alien success made the human response more vicious. The Devourers had never encountered anything like it. Their adaptation systems couldn't keep up with an enemy that constantly changed tactics based on emotion rather than logic. For the first time in the war, a Devourer fleet was not just repelled but actually defeated. 3 bioships were destroyed, and the rest fled the system. The victory at New Frontier sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Coalition military analysts studied the battle recordings, trying to understand how untrained civilians had achieved what professional armies could not. "They're fighting wrong," concluded General Vorthok Prime, the Coalition's supreme military commander. "No discipline, no strategy, no coordination." "But they're winning," Admiral Collins pointed out during the emergency strategy session. "By accident, they can't sustain this kind of warfare." "Can't they?" Collins played back footage from the battle. "Look at the crew of that cargo hauler. They lost their primary weapons in the first minute, so they started using their loading arms to grab Devourer fighters and throw them into space." The Vorthak general studied the recording. "That's not a military tactic. No, it's not. It's human improvisation under pressure." Collins switched to different footage. "Here's a passenger liner using its emergency slides as rapid deployment systems for boarding parties. And here's a mining ship using its ore extractors to literally bite chunks out of enemy vessels." Ambassador Williams had been quiet during the discussion, but now she spoke up. "You're all missing the point. This isn't about military tactics or weapons technology." "Then what is it about?" asked the Crystalline Hive representative. "It's about what happens when you threaten someone's family." Williams stood up, her voice carrying an edge that made even the massive Vorthak lean forward. "Every human in that battle was fighting for something specific. Not for the Coalition, not for victory, not for glory. They were fighting for their children, their parents, their neighbors." She walked to the holographic display showing the battle. "The Devourers made a mistake. They thought they could terrorize us into submission by targeting human colonies. Instead, they turned every human in the galaxy into a soldier." Dr. Harper had been monitoring human colonies across Coalition space. What she found confirmed Williams' words. On every human world, people were preparing for war. Not professionally, not systematically, but with the fierce determination of parents protecting their young. Admiral Greg Collins stood on the bridge of the Coalition flagship, Unity, watching the largest fleet in galactic history prepare for battle. 6 months ago, he had commanded 12 human ships. Now, he led a combined force of 3,000 vessels from every species in the Coalition. The difference was that humans were no longer in the background. They were at the center of everything. "Admiral, the Vorthak battle group is ready," reported Captain Jake Morrison, who now served as Collins' chief of staff. "They've completed human tactical training and are requesting permission to engage." Collins smiled grimly. The sight of massive Vorthak warriors learning to fight with emotion instead of just brute force had been amusing at first. Now it was terrifying. When a 10-foot-tall reptilian predator learned to channel protective fury, the results were devastating. "What about the Zephyrian squadrons?" "Also ready, sir. They've adapted human improvisation techniques to their energy manipulation abilities." The war had changed completely in the past 6 months. After the victory at New Frontier, word had spread that human fighting methods could defeat the Devourers. Every Coalition species wanted to learn how to fight like angry humans. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos had become the Coalition's chief training officer, teaching alien warriors how to tap into emotional strength. Her methods were simple but effective. Make them think about protecting something they loved, then show them how to channel that feeling into combat. "The key is personal investment," she explained to a group of Crystalline Hive warriors who were struggling with the concept. "You can't fight with fury for abstract ideas. It has to be personal." The crystal beings had no families in the human sense, but they shared thoughts and memories through their collective consciousness. Maria taught them to fight for their shared experiences, their collective dreams, their unity itself. When crystalline warriors finally learned to fight with emotion, they became terrifyingly effective. Their coordination remained perfect, but now it was driven by passionate determination instead of cold logic. Captain Alex Turner commanded a task force that included ships from 8 different species. His mission was to test the new combined tactics against Devourer outposts in the Outer Rim. What he found was remarkable. "They're working together like they've trained for years," he reported to Admiral Collins after their first joint operation. "The Vorthik provide heavy assault, the Zephyrians handle energy attacks, the mechanicals coordinate support systems, and the humans keep everyone focused on the emotional core of why we're fighting. Casualties? Minimal. The Devourers can't adapt to this new approach. Every time they think they understand our tactics, one of the species does something completely unexpected." Dr. Lisa Harper had been studying the psychological effects of human-style warfare on other species. Her findings were fascinating and slightly disturbing. "The emotional intensity is spreading," she told Collins during their weekly briefings. "Other species are developing empathy responses they never had before. Vorthik warriors are forming emotional bonds with their squad mates. Zephyrian energy beings are experiencing anger for the first time in their evolution. Is that dangerous?" "It could be. Emotions are powerful tools, but they can also be destructive if not properly controlled." Harper showed him brain scans from alien volunteers. "We're essentially teaching peaceful species how to hate their enemies." Collins studied the data. "But they're also learning how to love their allies." That was true. The shared training, the common purpose, and the human emphasis on fighting for others had created bonds between coalition species that had never existed before. Vorthik and Zephyrian crews were working together as seamlessly as humans and crystalline hive units were coordinating attacks with mechanical precision driven by emotional commitment. The first major test of the new coalition forces came at the Sigma Draconis system, where a massive Devourer fleet was preparing to attack the sector capital. Intelligence indicated that 12 bioships, each the size of a small moon, were gathering for the assault. Collins decided to try something that military experts called suicide, a direct frontal attack against overwhelming odds. This goes against every principle of space combat. General Vorthik Prime protested during the strategy meeting. "We should establish defensive positions and force them to come to us." "That's what they expect," Collins replied. "The Devourers have adapted to defensive strategies. They've learned to break through any fortification we can build. So your solution is to attack directly?" "My solution is to do something so crazy that their adaptation systems can't process it." Collins pulled up the battle plan. "We're going to hit them with everything we have, all at once, with no strategy except to cause as much chaos as possible." The other coalition leaders looked skeptical, but Ambassador Kate Williams supported the plan. "Human military history is full of impossible victories achieved through desperate courage," she pointed out. "Sometimes the best strategy is to have no strategy at all." The Battle of Sigma Draconis began at dawn on a Tuesday. The coalition fleet dropped out of hyperspace directly in front of the Devourer formation, close enough to see the organic surfaces of the bioships. What followed was the most chaotic space battle in galactic history. Human ships led the charge, their crews screaming battle cries that were broadcast across all communication channels. Vorthik dreadnoughts followed, their warriors roaring challenges in their ancient war language. Zephyrian energy beings turned themselves into living weapons, sacrificing their physical forms to overload Devourer shields, the crystalline hive. Coordinated suicide runs by mechanical syndicate drones while Thorian shapeshifters infiltrated enemy vessels. Aquatic Federation submarines somehow managed to operate in the vacuum of space by using their water reserves as reaction mass, but the most devastating attacks came from mixed species crews fighting together. Human emotional intensity combined with alien capabilities created combinations the Devourers had never encountered. Captain Turner's ship worked with a Vorthik heavy cruiser and the Zephyrian energy platform. The humans provided tactical improvisation. The Vorthik delivered crushing firepower, and the Zephyrians created energy fields that turned their attacks into devastating combinations. "Target their feeding tendrils," Turner called out as his gunner, a human named Pete Davis, coordinated with alien weapon systems. If we can disrupt their consumption process, they can't heal their damage. The mixed crew responded instantly. Vorthek weapons shattered the bioship's armor while Zephyrion energy beams severed the organic connections that allowed the Devourers to regenerate. Human tactical coordination kept the attacks focused and relentless. For the first time in the war, Devourer bioships began to die. The aliens tried to adapt, but the coalition forces kept changing their approach. Every few minutes, someone would try a completely new tactic. Mechanical fighters would suddenly switch to ramming attacks. Energy beings would turn defensive shields into offensive weapons. Humans would coordinate boarding actions that made no tactical sense but somehow worked anyway. Dr. Ben Rogers watched the battle from the command ship, analyzing the tactical flow. What he saw amazed him. "There's no pattern," he reported to Collins. "Every ship is fighting differently, but they're all supporting each other. It's like watching organized chaos." "That's exactly what it is," Collins replied. "The Devourers can't adapt to chaos because chaos has no rules to analyze." The battle lasted 14 hours. When it ended, 8 of the 12 Devourer bioships had been destroyed. The remaining 4 retreated deeper into space, moving faster than they ever had before. The Coalition had won the largest space battle in galactic history. News of the victory spread across the galaxy within hours. For the first time since the war began, Coalition forces had not just defeated the Devourers but actually destroyed a significant portion of their fleet. More importantly, they had proven that the new human-inspired tactics could work on a massive scale. Admiral Collins received congratulations from every Coalition world. But the message that meant the most came from Governor Rachel Stone on Haven Prime. "You taught the galaxy how to fight like humans. Now teach them how to win like humans." The psychological impact of Sigma Draconis was enormous. Coalition morale soared, while reports from the front lines indicated that Devourer attacks were becoming more cautious, more hesitant. "They're afraid," Dr. Harper concluded after analyzing captured alien biological samples. "For the first time, the Devourers are experiencing something like fear." Lieutenant Colonel Santos had a different interpretation. "They're not just afraid, they're confused. They've spent their entire existence consuming predictable prey. Now they're facing something that gets stronger when threatened and more dangerous." When hurt, the success led to rapid expansion of human-style training programs. Every Coalition world wanted instructors who could teach their people how to fight with emotional intensity. Maria Santos found herself commanding a training academy with thousands of alien students. "The hardest part," she told Alex Turner during one of his visits, "is teaching them that anger can be controlled without being weakened. Humans instinctively understand that fury works best when it's focused on protecting something specific." Alex watched Vorthek recruits practicing emotional combat techniques. The final battle came sooner than anyone expected. The Devourers, driven back from system after system by Coalition forces using human tactics, had gathered their remaining strength at the edge of the galaxy. Intelligence reports showed over 100 bioships, clustered around a massive structure that dwarfed anything the aliens had built before. Admiral Greg Collins stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity, watching long-range scans of the enemy formation. The alien mothership was the size of a small planet, its organic surface pulsing with dark energy. Around it, the Devourer fleet moved in defensive patterns. "They're making their last stand," Captain Jake Morrison observed, studying the tactical displays, "or preparing for something bigger," Dr. Lisa Harper added from her science station. She had been monitoring the alien communications, trying to understand their intentions. "The energy readings from that mothership are off the charts. I think they're building something." Ambassador Kate Williams joined them on the bridge. She had spent the past weeks coordinating with every Coalition government, preparing for what everyone knew would be the war's final confrontation. "The Council has approved the mission," she announced. "Every species is contributing their best ships and crews. This will be the largest fleet in galactic history." Collins nodded grimly. The Coalition had learned to fight like humans, but this battle would test whether they had truly learned to think like humans too. Captain Alex Turner commanded the Advanced Scout Squadron, a mixed force of human and alien. Ships tasked with gathering intelligence on the Devourer stronghold. What they found changed everything. "Admiral, you need to see this," Turner reported during his reconnaissance mission. His ship, accompanied by a Vorthak heavy cruiser and 2 Zephyrian energy platforms, had penetrated the outer defenses using human stealth tactics combined with alien technology. The visual feed showed the interior of the Devourer mothership. It was not what anyone expected. Instead of a weapon or a fortress, they saw something that looked like a massive nursery. Thousands of smaller bioships were being grown in organic chambers, tended by creatures that seemed more like caretakers than warriors. "They're not building a weapon," Dr. Harper realized, analyzing the scanner data. "They're trying to reproduce." The implications hit everyone at once. The Devourers were not preparing for a final attack. They were trying to create a new generation of their species, hoping to escape deeper into space and start over somewhere else. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos had been leading the joint training exercises that prepared Coalition forces for the final battle. Her mixed species units had become incredibly effective, combining human emotional tactics with alien capabilities. But this new information changed the nature of their mission entirely. If they're just trying to survive, do we really need to destroy them? She asked during the emergency strategy meeting. "They've consumed billions of lives," General Vorthak Prime pointed out, his scales dark with anger. "Justice demands that they pay for their crimes." "Justice, yes," Ambassador Williams said quietly. "But what about mercy?" The debate continued for hours. Some Coalition leaders wanted complete destruction of the Devourer fleet. Others argued for containment. But it was Dr. Harper who suggested the most radical approach. "What if we try to communicate with them?" she proposed. "We've learned that the Devourers can't adapt to human emotional responses because they don't understand them. But maybe they can learn." Admiral Collins considered the idea. Human tactics had already done the impossible by stopping the Devourer. "Advance. Perhaps human compassion could do something even more remarkable." "It's worth trying," he decided. "But we go in ready for battle. If communication fails, we finish this war the hard way." The Coalition fleet assembled at the edge of Devourer space 3 days later. 5,000 ships from 12 different species, all trained in human fighting methods, all ready to die for each other. The sight was magnificent and terrifying, but at the front of the fleet was a single small ship carrying Ambassador Williams, Dr. Harper, and a volunteer crew of humans who had asked to attempt first contact with the enemy. "This is insane," Captain Turner muttered, watching the diplomatic vessel approach the alien mothership. "They're flying straight into the most dangerous place in the galaxy." "That's what humans do," Admiral Collins replied. "They do insane things, for the right reasons." The small ship entered the Devourer defensive perimeter without firing a shot. The alien bioships moved to intercept it, but then something unexpected happened. They stopped. The Devourers surrounded the human vessel, but did not attack. "They're scanning us," Dr. Harper reported from the diplomatic ship. "But they're not using the same energy patterns we've seen before. This feels different." Ambassador Williams took a deep breath and activated the communications array. "Devourer ships. This is Ambassador Kate Williams of the Galactic Coalition. We request permission to speak with your leaders." The response came not in words but in images broadcast directly into their minds. The humans saw the history of the Devourer species, a race that had once been peaceful, living on a world that was slowly dying. They had modified themselves to survive by consuming other life forms, but the process had changed them into something they never wanted to become. "They're not evil," Williams realized, tears streaming down her face as she experienced the alien memories. "They're just hungry and afraid." The Devourer Queen emerged from the depths of the mothership. She was massive, a creature of living tissue and metal that pulsed with dark energy. But when she spoke, her voice carried sadness rather than malice. "Why do you small ones fight so hard?" The Queen asked through the mental link. We consume. To survive, it is our nature now. Because fighting for others is our nature, Williams replied. We protect what we love, even when it seems impossible. Love, the Queen repeated, testing the concept. Your species fights with this emotion. We have studied your tactics but cannot understand them. Dr. Harper stepped forward. Love is what? Makes us stronger when we're threatened. It's what makes us care more about others than ourselves. It's what makes us human. The Queen was silent for long moments, processing this information. We had love once, before the hunger. Before we became what we are now. You can have it again, William said. But not through consuming others. Love grows through giving, not taking. The mental conversation continued for hours while the two fleets faced each other in space. The Devourer Queen shared more memories, her species' fear when their world began to die, their desperate transformation to survive, their growing hunger that could never be satisfied. The humans shared their own memories in return, stories of sacrifice, of people dying to protect others, of communities coming together in crisis. They showed the Queen what it meant to find strength through connection rather than consumption. Your proposal is impossible, the Queen finally said. We are what we are. We cannot change our nature. Yes, you can, Dr. Harper insisted. We've learned that biology is not destiny. Our species was violent and territorial for thousands of years. We learned to be better. How? By choosing to protect instead of destroy, by choosing to give instead of take, by choosing love over fear. The Queen's massive form pulsed with conflicting emotions, and if we refuse, if we choose to continue, as we are, Admiral Collins spoke over the communication channel from the flagship, then we will stop you. Not because we hate you, but because we love the people you would consume. You would fight us even now? When we are trying to retreat? If necessary, Collins replied. But we would rather help you find another way. The Queen considered this. For a long time, the entire Devourer fleet remained motionless, waiting for her decision. The coalition forces held their positions, ready for either peace or war. Show us, the Queen said finally. Show us how to love instead of consume. What followed was the strangest peace negotiation in galactic history. Dr. Harper worked with Devourer scientists to develop new biological processes that could sustain their species without consuming others. Coalition engineers helped design habitats where the aliens could live without threatening other worlds. The process took months. Many on both sides remained suspicious and hostile. Some Devourer factions tried to resume their attacks, and some coalition members wanted to destroy the aliens completely, but gradually understanding grew. The Devourers learned that cooperation could provide more security than consumption. The coalition learned that their former enemies were not monsters but refugees who had lost their way. Captain Turner participated in joint operations where human and Devourer crews worked together to establish the new colonies. It was awkward at first, but the aliens' genuine desire to change became clear over time. They're really trying, he reported to Admiral Collins. Some of the younger Devourers have never known anything but hunger. Learning to care for others instead of consuming them is completely foreign to them. Learning is hard, Collins replied. But it's possible. Humans prove that every day. 5 years after the war ended, Ambassador Williams stood on the observation deck of a new space station at the galaxy's edge. Through the transparent walls, she could see Devourer bioships working alongside coalition vessels to build homes for refugee populations from the war. The aliens had kept their word.